Hello, it's December 22nd, and all through the house, not a creature was scurrying, not even a mouse.
Stirring.
No,
Whatever.
now remember, scurrying. What's that?
Yeah, I don't know.
Now remember, Devember is going on, so you've got some time off, and probably no news next week. We'll probably have regular videos that we've pre-recorded, but next week it's like the holidays and the travel. And
Lots of traveling.
just sorry, but there's going to be live news the week after that because it's New Year's.
Just heads.
So get building. Devember is also going to run well
Into January.
to the end of January.
Yeah.
So you got time. Everybody's on holiday. You know,
It's,
school doesn't start for until January 15th this year.
It's Devember.
Devember.
Oh. What's in RimWorld? Is it
December.
December? Okay.
Juggist.
Yeah.
Juggist is my favorite.
September.
So let's talk about some AI and some robots. We'll start by talking about AI. Now, OpenAI, we all know ChatGPT. It's astonishing. It's amazing. It's been nerfed. Did you see that?
Yeah.
They nerfed it hard.
They've nerfed it 2 or 3 times.
They were worried about what the stinking masses are going to do with their creation. But they do expect it to do big things.
They're nerfing it for now until people
Yeah.
get more comfortable with the idea of it.
They expect it to do really big things.
Exclusive. ChatGPT owner OpenAI projects a $1 billion revenue by 2024. It's surprisingly good. I've used it for a couple of things, and it has mistakes, and it's not great, but it actually is surprisingly good. It's a really interesting way to interact with documentation.
But not monetized.
But not monetized. Not yet. It is useful. It is more useful than GitHub Copilot in those kinds of things that I actually probably would consider paying $100 a year for it, whereas I would not consider $100 a year. I don't think Copilot is $100 a year useful for what I do, but GPT does what Copilot does and then some better, in my opinion.
But the biggest complaint about it, other than, destroying the workforce and humanity and, giving our overlords the means to control us, is that it does things that seem right, but aren't.
Yes.
And that is the biggest danger. And that is all of the criticisms that we're seeing now.
ChatGPT wrote a terrible Gizmodo article. So it really did. You should go read it. But if there's any AI researchers that work on this that are watching, maybe it would be a good idea to build in the neural net confidence into how it responds. Because ChatGPT always responds very confidently. But then when you point out, it's like, that's wrong. It usually will correct itself. Like I was talking to it about Amazon, and it said Jeff Bezos was the CEO of Amazon. And it's like, well, no, that's not correct. It's Andy Jassy. And I was like, that's not correct. Who is the CEO of Amazon? It's like, oh, my mistake. That's Andy Jassy. So it kind of knew, but it's just stupid.
But the data is 2021, so
Yeah.
in its world, that's still true.
But it knew it was Andy Jassy when
You pointed, yeah. So
But
it's learning again right now.
It probably learned that from other people correcting it.
Ooh.
I don't know if it works that way. Maybe.
So one thing about robots, one thing about we've learned with the Twitter debacle, right? Like we knew that Twitter had terrible bias and that human beings were making decisions that weren't fair. They were applying them in some cases and not applying them in other cases. And then Elon Musk took over and he started applying them in the opposite direction, but still unfair.
Yes.
So humans are always going to have that weakness. How do you get around it? Well, Jack Dorsey said a very dystopian thing, which is it should be totally automated. Humans should have no interaction with it at all. And it's like, well, that seems kind of scary.
And it still has to be trained on a data set. And that's going to have bias.
But over at YouTube, they were like, yeah, we know. We already were doing that.
YouTube moderation bots will start issuing warnings and 24-hour bans. This is going to be one of those fun games where people figure out things to say that'll get you banned, and then they ask you a question that leads you to innocently answer the thing that'll get you banned, and then you get banned.
That's going to be a wild time.
I can't wait for that to happen to us.
It was like that time we were live streaming, and Ryan was like, give us an okay if you can hear whatever. And it was like, oh, wait, that means something else now. I'm confused.
But it doesn't mean that.
Wasn't that 4chan
It
thing?
means okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the bots are going to be like, oh, no, that's.
There's some
you're doing
context
something
on a
bad.
4chan thread from 5 years ago that you
But-
don't know about.
That's the problem. The other problem is somebody has to sort of arm the bots, right?
Right.
Like you have to have a policy and then interpretation. It's going to be a mess, but it's probably going to be an entertaining mess unless you're us.
Yeah, unless, you make some of your income on YouTube.
Join us now on Patreon and Fluffing. Nervous laughter.
And what the other big thing about the ChatGPT and all that stuff is people are pushing back because it's giving this disinformation, because it's so dangerous for everybody. Is that going to ultimately turn humanity against it? Google seems to think so.
Google execs warn that the company's reputation could suffer if it moves too fast on AI chat related technology.
How about not prioritizing AI responses in their search engine? That would be great.
I mean, they're definitely using it, right?
Well, I'm just thinking, like, how many times have I looked up some sort of obscure, I need to learn X fact about this plant for my zone, and it's like, here's this weird AI garbage article that's just like
That's kind of the,
SEO optimization.
it's kind of the Valve problem too. Like Valve will not release Half-Life 3 because they think they'll disappoint some amount of fans and they'd rather not tarnish anything. So Google's always going to be in that paralysis because they think that they have a really high reputation. But anybody who's used Android for any length of time the last couple of years knows that it's already gone to crap.
But the opposite argument for that is Star Wars.
Yeah.
They shouldn't have. They should have just let it alone. They did make billions of dollars though, so I guess there's that. I've never seen this before. While we were sitting here, I don't think I had it on the screen at the time. Because we just hit 4:00. The market closed. We got the red banner pop up.
Oh,
in real
yeah.
time.
It was on there earlier when I was reading through some of the stories. It was like,
We're going overtime? I didn't know that was a thing. Is it like football game? I didn't know that.
No, 4:00. The market closed, so they could run the headline that where the Dow ended.
they were running stories earlier about it being a dramatic drop.
It's bad.
Yeah. Who knows what it would be next week when you guys are watching this?
We talked about this one, but I don't think we ever had a story about it. This is
Oh,
from
man, this is the one I mentioned last week. The story hadn't been written yet.
the people who did the thing that gets you out of speeding tickets. They've got this whole suite now, and they've added another feature.
DoNotPay is launching an AI chatbot that can negotiate your bills. This works great for companies that are hemorrhaging clients, telecommunications companies, AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, Comcast, Charter, Suddenlink. Those companies, they will absolutely negotiate.
And the stuff AI can do is so rapidly advancing because we have these deep, powerful AI tools, and you just have to think about, it's like, well, what if I turn AI loose on this thing? And it's always impressive.
DeepMind created an AI tool that can help generate rough film and stage scripts.
Did they actually have a demo of this? Because I read the article, but I didn't see like a demo
They
script. in
gave
here.
on Twitter, yeah, I think, right? Maybe not.
Now let's feed this to Stable Diffusion and get some video. Or just stills to go with it.
Well, this is like things like character descriptions. I was kind of like, well, that's kind of been a thing for a while, but like the dialogue and stuff is more impressive.
Dramatron is a great name.
Yeah.
I feel like that should be a Twitter account that just takes current events and tries to stir drama about them.
I feel like a lot of modern scripts anyway feel like they're already kind of AI generated, but
Optimus Prime is really unhappy with Dramatron because they're always causing strife between the other Autobots.
Dramatron would be a good pairing for Crushinator. It's a fiery relationship. There's a lot of passion. And the artists are, they see the writing on the wall and they're angry, and they have good reason to be.
Artists stage a mass protest against AI-generated artwork on ArtStation.
ArtStation's basically a portfolio site that sort of replaced DeviantArt many years ago.
So what exactly are they pissed off about? Well, it's not just the AI. It's a specific thing about the AI, because it turns out you could give in the prompt, you could mention ArtStation,
And a certain artist.
and the AI would go to ArtStation and look at their art and be like, "Man, I can make something like that," and it can. And so,
And you couldn't opt out of it if you're the artist. So then all of a sudden the trending page was just nothing but mimics of another art style.
so here's all the AI stuff that they got there. It is amazing what it's doing. And so they all submitted this image, which then made the front page this wall of anti-AI.
Anti-AI,
I love
right.
the person who did it in clay.
Yeah.
So creative.
I worry though. I worry that all of this is Disney. Like I feel the hand of Disney behind some of this, trying to get artists riled up to say that this is some form of theft because that will protect Disney IP as well. And I think Disney IP is deserving of less protection than individual artist IP, which is a kind of paradoxical situation.
It'd be nice if there was just a way to opt out of having your art taken by all of these, but there isn't. Like they'll just source it.
But even if legally there was, how would you actually build that?
Right.
And that's
You need a banana sticker you can put in the bottom corner.
but something subtle just happened. It's not the banana sticker. You can't opt out of Disney stealing your stuff, and
Right.
they have gotten away with it. Disney's built a multi-billion-dollar empire stealing unique artwork from individual artists, and those cases have gone through the courts, and Disney has not suffered for that. For better or worse, that is the system that we have. And so individual artists, for the AI side of it, it will only benefit Disney now to go the other way, which is the really insidious thing here. Like the crime already happened, I guess.
And the specific examples just get more and more egregious as time goes on.
Art streamers livid after AI art steals Genshin Impact in progress work and demands credit.
This
Now, what-
artist was streaming on Twitch.
Krista, do you know which is the real and which is the AI?
The one on the right, I believe, is the right one. I had to look at the Twitter thread because it doesn't mention it in this article. This is also an older story. This happened in October, but I thought it was interesting.
It's interesting that the one on the left is so much less defined.
Right.
But I mean, come on. You would get sued for that.
Yeah.
If a person did it.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing that was crazy about this is the person who entered the AI prompts, they posted it before the artist was finished with it. And then they demanded the artist give credit to them for stealing from them.
There's like the people who create something with AI and then it's like, I made this.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
going to be one of the big villainous groups going forward.
That's already happening. I mean, a lot of subreddits have started just getting rid of AI entirely because it's like, we can't verify where this came from. Like,
Listen,
and it's low effort content.
Battlestar and Warhammer both predicted this. We must outlaw AI eventually.
Dune too, right? Dune eventually got rid of computers and stuff, and then they did the Mentat thing.
I'm not ready to be a mentat.
I'm not either.
How much Adderall do you have to snort?
No, it's spice, right?
Well, we don't have spice.
Yeah.
All we've got Adderall.
It turns out Adderall is spice. So it's like we gave the worms Adderall, and we were the precursors.
But not like the giant sandwich, just like red wigglers that you get out of your garden and you just throw some cocaine at them.
Humanity's destiny across the universe is Adderall. We were the ones that figured it out, and we changed the shape of all civilization development and activity.
You got video of us like meeting our first alien species, and then the guy shaking their hands is like twitching. His teeth are all gone.
It turns into a microcosm of when we brought spices, from all over the world.
Oh, yeah.
Wars were fought. It's like the Great Adderall Wars of 2062.
Oh,
Well, let's ignore the AI for a while. It's a depressing topic. Let's talk about some more real robots.
Uber Eats launches robot delivery service in Miami.
I feel like we've seen these before. Is this the one that got hit by the train?
Yes. Go and be free.
They're kind of adorable.
they are
in their own
kind of
way.
cute. I'm always surprised by the amount of people who want to hit the robots. I'm not like going to go out of my way to protect them, but I'm not going to try to hurt them at all.
They seem kind of, like they're doing a service for us. Why,
Yeah.
why be mad at them?
I can't. I hope I'm still alive when we enter the time when the robots are allowed to tase people in self-defense.
Well,
And
San
it just-
Francisco.
Yeah, you see the San Francisco delivery robots going down the street, and a homeless person attacks one of the delivery robots, and it just tases him and leaves him twitching.
It's like a
in the
battle bot.
sidewalk.
It's got an arm and it just like
That's-
kneecaps him.
It's going to suck, though, because if that's your order, you get a text message, and it's like, well, the battery's now at 25% because we had to tase two guys. So it's going to take another 30 minutes. Well, we often talk about how in the United States, more than half of our workforce is delivery drivers, right? So once those trucks really do start driving themselves, which honestly we're no closer to, so maybe that's the good thing, it's going to destroy the economy. Maybe in some Asian cultures, this is that for them, right?
This is in the U.S. though.
But no, I'm saying like, well, they're going to stop them from putting
Yeah.
in Vietnam. That's going to destroy all of their exports.
Robots set their sights on a new job, sewing blue jeans.
There are actually still some companies here in the U.S. who make clothing, but how much longer now?
Well, they'll just be doing the robots, right?
Yeah.
It can't do the whole thing. Somebody has to finish it, but I'm sure they'll figure it out in 5 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
I really think we're going to see a lot of this kind of thing return to a more local level, where
Yeah, I
like
would
you
like
have
that.
They talk about that.
I think, I mean, it's not like Walmart, I guess, is to think of it, but you would have like your regional thing, and you go online, you download the pattern, and you upload it, and then it's like, ding, your order's ready, and you go, and it's 90% done. You have to do the last little bit of it yourself. Maybe you have to staple some stuff in place, or maybe you have to whatever, but you just kind of DIY it.
Or the Amazon book printing
Yeah.
format.
Yeah.
So, hey, send me a 90% jean, ship it to me, and then when I get it home, I'll, put whatever on it.
Yeah.
Listen.
I think we have to do that economically with where we're headed globally and as a nation.
I won't be able to own the tools to do that, but I'll go down to the local co-op that has a bedazzler and I'll finish out my jeans.
I wonder, so this kind of already happened to some extent with like fast fashion, where clothing doesn't really it's not fitted really very well, because you want to make something as like loose and generic as possible, so that way it will fit the widest body types. If you order like the robot jeans, will they just be like massive, and then it's like, oh, you take them to the tailor and they'll do the last little bit to make them fit you?
If it ends up being like 3D printing, I think you'll be able to just upload your file and you get
Your measurements.
and you get form fitting whatever.
That'll be great for the TikTok girls, because as they, keep doing hard squats every day and their ass keeps getting bigger, they can adapt and grow their fan base. Well, Amazon is at the forefront of robots handling products, and they're running into some interesting problems that those robots have that the human slaves don't.
Amazon's plan to eliminate the barcode. Amazon's using a computer vision system to recognize products, no barcodes required. System is designed with robots in mind. How long until we have the adversarial product, the holographic banana, if you will, that it's like we put that in the warehouse and it's like, oh, you need this, and it's some more expensive item.
And then the robots just start killing. But here's the thing about it. Amazon wants to eliminate the barcode. Well, that's great for Amazon because it uses a vision system to do that. No, we don't have that at the local self-checkout.
Yeah.
We need barcodes still. It's
Well-
a really good system.
Years ago when I worked at a grocery store, there was apparently something under development that was like a self-checkout, but you put your items on the bar and then it went through like a little cave, and it would do that same sort of thing where it would scan what it was and then it would know.
Yeah, that was what, 10 years ago?
Yeah.
More? I don't think that's coming. I think it'll be the Amazon version. Then you'll have to buy that for your little mom and pop grocery store.
And then you'll just go out of business.
You just can't. Well, you can't afford that. We'll buy your building. And here's something that you never want to have happen on a spacecraft. And yet, this is the second time.
Russian engineers assessing a leak from the Soyuz crew spacecraft. It's a coolant leak.
Yeah.
I'm reminded of the Futurama quote. It's like, oh, you're leaking coolant at an alarming rate. Would you like a blast of searing hot resin?
And yeah, that's a problem.
They
That's
can't
big
do a
problem.
spacewalk. They were scheduled to do one and can't do it now.
That sucks. I mean, how much training do you do to do that spacewalk? And then one little hole ruins everything.
Maybe they didn't. Maybe someone had, jitters. First spacewalk jitters, and they're like, no, I'll sabotage this. They won't know.
There's a great conspiracy theory about, remember the leak?
It wasn't a
the
leak, was
oxygen leak? The drill hole.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the drill hole. Yeah.
There's a great conspiracy theory that one of the women, remember she had the deep vein thrombosis? Mm-hmm. And her girlfriend was cheating on her and she knew it. And there's a great conspiracy theory that she caused the hole to rapidly get back to Earth to deal with those because they weren't going to bring her back quickly. One thing about all this new world of robots and like AI is going to need data centers, right? You're going to need a lot of compute power. One critical element that we are running out of to do all that stuff. So I guess NASA is going to try to figure out just how bad the situation is.
NASA to conduct first global water survey from space.
Spoiler, in many places, it's not good. Just from satellite imagery we already have.
In the satellite imagery, there's a bunch of trees died in the Pacific Northwest.
I was going to include that, and I forgot to put it in here.
Oh yeah, I saw that headline. I didn't read the story though.
Yeah.
It's because there's no moisture.
Well, they had the heat dome last year, and furs require a certain number of chill hours, and then they all just...
What a bunch of losers. And we have figured out that there is a healthy glow. Maybe our solar system is pregnant.
Hubble detects a ghostly glow surrounding our solar system. It's a lot of dust that didn't collapse into planets or anything. It's just hanging out.
Probably comet dust,
Yeah.
which is disgusting.
Fun times.
You're going to be flying through space and it's just comet dust everywhere.
You got the windshield wipers going, trying to get it off.
It's like pollen in the
Yeah.
spring. And I thought this was interesting. I mean, it's not necessarily nonsense, but it's a weird way of doing this. However, here's my fear about this. I think what's going to happen here is there's going to be a real easy way to supplement your retirement income.
New Zealand bans a world first in banning tobacco for the next generation. It goes into effect, what, 2025, 2026?
No, I think it's right now, right? 2008 is the cutoff birth year.
Okay.
So as time moves forward, those people will be able to keep smoking, but anybody under them,
Well, the market will keep shrinking and the price will keep going up. And
or they will bootleg it and make a lot of money. And the government will make a lot of money catching those people and finding them and seizing the money, but the problem will persist. And it'll be easier for young kids to get a hold of it because it's black market.
I was reading about growing your own tobacco, and it's I mean, growing it is fine. The issue is like having space to dry it, and it takes a long time to cure into a smokable form.
A lot of Eastern Kentucky families they still had a tobacco barn.
Oh yeah, yeah. Our house actually had a barn in it before we moved in.
I had one uncle who would always show me like his tobacco was only homegrown tobacco and dry. He had like these big giant chunks of it. I didn't understand what it was at that time, but in hindsight, that was impressive.
You never helped put it in the barn?
No. We only visited those people like 2-3 times a year.
Yeah.
I did that like one time when I was 12, and the top of the barn was so hot because it was like the dog days of summer in August that I almost passed out.
You also get so covered with the nicotine stuff, and that can go through your skin.
Yeah.
So probably in like a great mood afterwards.
I remember them yelling, like, "You all right up there?" And I like tried to answer, but it just came out like a...
A friend of mine mentioned that he was like working on his grandfather's tobacco farm, and like they were carrying it all in. I guess he was shirtless and had it on his back, and like it absorbed through his skin. He said he just vomited, like awful.
And also not nonsense, but a cool thing that, we need this. Christmas time is the worst time for me about this because when you visit family and you walk into their home.
There's just a wall of heat.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to be able to get this from the value vision. Gold nano-coating works like an anti-fog heating element for glasses. Now, it uses a vanishingly small coating of gold, but it is gold particles.
And it's like a lace work, kind of like it uses in your car where it's embedded in the glass, but it's so small, it's basically invisible. And you can power it. It uses sunlight as the power source, but if there's no sunlight or ambient light, you can just run electricity to it.
I feel like that's one of those things that maybe because I don't wear my glasses full time, but like I don't notice it that often. Like it's not that big of a deal to me. I wouldn't spend extra money for it.
You do get a lot of the modern coatings will
Yeah.
deal with it. My old glasses were terrible.
These aren't very good. I haven't had a good pair of anti-fog glasses in years.
And we talked about this last week. This is kind of a hot new story, but it turns out it's not a new story at all. It's something that has been happening and nobody's really been talking about it.
String of electrical grid attacks in the Pacific Northwest remain unsolved. That's the West
That happened
Coast, not
10
the
years.
East Coast.
10 years ago.
I think we might have figured out the East Coast.
A lot of them are bullets, but not all of them. And they're kind of tight-lipped about exactly what's going on.
One of them was a drone with a chain that flew into a transformer, which seems kind of deliberate. Like, what was the?
Oh, I have no doubt a lot of that is deliberate, but
Isn't it
who's the
all?
actor behind it?
I think almost all of it is, right?
Yeah.
I've had enough with this electricity. I'm going to take matters into my own hands.
I mean, maybe a couple of them is just somebody just celebrating, shooting in the air.
It's the Amish. They're buying drones and they're like a short gain.
Now, here's an interesting situation, and it's not just because they're actually doing it. I mean, it's kind of crazy that they're actually doing it, but what's crazy is
They're moving rapidly.
you press release something, right?
Yeah.
You tell the world about it, then you go to the trouble of colluding with Google to hide it. Why?
These exclusive satellite images show that Saudi Arabia's sci-fi megacity is well underway.
Meow.
There it is.
The line.
It's the foundation of the line.
What a strange, like, every time I think about this city, it's like, why? A line seems like the most inefficient.
What was it wasn't Mount Rushmore. There was something that they were working on out west. They did a bunch of work. It was a monument, a Native American monument. And they stopped for a little while and they started again. It was the dude on the horse. This reminds me of that.
But the weird thing here is you will not see this on Google Maps, even though people have looked at Google Maps and in terms of timeline have found changes that would have been after this change. But Google Maps is hiding this. Maxar, is that the satellite company?
Maxar.
I think it's Maxar. I think they do have it. Anyway, somebody has it, and Technology Review got a hold of it. But why is Google hiding it?
For money.
Because they were asked to.
Yeah.
But why were they asked to? Once again, they press released this.
We don't want people to be able to see it exactly. Or maybe it's an unguarded construction site and they're worried about the copper walking off because they got
It
a
is
little
a
bit of a
huge
problem with
area.
meth heads.
Or it's lined with corpses.
Well, I think at this point they've just dug out like where the foundation will be, but
Did you guys see that somebody confronted the Qatar leader about how many people died building the World Cup buildings? And he was like, people die.
some of you may die. And that's a risk I'm willing to take as a world leader.
And in Iran, they're having a little bit of a revolutionary thing. Not quite as much as in China, but, they were very upset about that murder that happened.
I don't know. It's heating up.
They are certainly not tolerating it.
Iranian student faces the death penalty after distributing chocolates and hugs. This has got to be a lead into the nonsense section, right? But that poor kid.
So somebody came up to him and they're like, look, you see those guys over there? Those are plainclothes. And they have been watching you all day. And they're like, oh, we better get out of here. And as soon as they started to get out of there, they just rushed him down, tased him, took him in, beat a confession out of him. And he confessed to stabbing somebody. But like, there was no altercation at all, according to the people that saw it. They said they saw him go as far as like being stuffed into the police car. There was no stabbing or anything. And now he's been sentenced to death. Rough response to chocolates and hugs. And the big thing about Qatar is that they did not sell any booze. First time a World Cup had not offered huge amounts of beer, and people were very upset about it, but were there some good things from that, maybe?
For the first time ever, no British fans were arrested at the World Cup. Are you implying that there's a correlation? There's a cause to the correlation here. The no beer and no arrests because British fans get a little unruly when they've imbibed.
Look, this one person didn't do the line thing.
Oh yeah.
Disgusting.
It's not a team player.
It could also be a little bit of the like, you know what? I don't want to be arrested in Qatar.
Yeah.
I think that could have played into it. I certainly wouldn't want to be arrested in Qatar. I don't want to be arrested anywhere, but I feel like if I was in France,
No.
And unfortunately, we have another story this week that's similar to one we had last week, which is it's one of these things where we have these laws on the books and you're like, well, they've just been there a long time and we don't have time. But then someone goes to the effort of actually changing it and they vote against it.
Child marriage law is still legal in Michigan as a fight continues to change the law.
What's the age? In Michigan?
0.
What?
As long as you have the parents' permission and you go through all the paperwork, there is no minimum age.
Kentucky, I think it's minimum 16 and has to have parents' consent. Are you telling me Kentucky's better than Michigan in this?
I don't find that surprising at all. Sorry, Michigan.
This is basically like selling your children. You know, like back in the day where you'd have a dowry and all that business. So a couple of girls, now they were older. They were like 16, 17 when it happened, but they described how that relationship almost immediately went to abuse. And
Right.
when you are married and underaged, you can't go to a women's shelter. Which is like, why do we have that rule?
That seems dumb.
Maybe because legal guardianship. This is probably some sort of weird.
That's a special kind of hell, right?
Yeah.
So I guess if you're in Michigan, maybe I don't. They didn't give you the option to vote, so call your people or whatever. We could certainly. I guess you don't know. Could we make that public information? And so, like, we could just collectively, as a group of people, exclude and vilify any man that does that. Doesn't have to be a man, I guess. Like, that seems like a good way to deal with that.
Yeah.
Like, hey, here's Dave. He just married a 9-year-old. Let's all make his life miserable.
Or it's in some sort of like weird isolated community where it's hard to police that kind of thing.
Yeah, it could be that. Well, we now know a little bit more about the guy that bludgeoned Pelosi's husband, Paul Pelosi. And turns out that he had some other targets, maybe.
Tom Hanks was on Pelosi attack suspect hit list, court hears.
Tom Hanks is so uncontroversial.
Well, when I first saw this headline, I was like, they were thinking Tom Hanks did
That's
the
yeah.
attack
The
on
headline's
Pelosi.
written in a weird way. It's like,
And then,
like
and then
he's
I
the
read it
one.
and it was like, oh no.
What a great ending to,
Yeah.
to Tom Hanks' life and saga. Throws it all away to attack Paul Pelosi.
It was like, it's like, you bastard, you gave me a stock tip that I lost my fortune. My kids are going to get nothing.
There's a conspiracy theory online that I've seen in a few circles where it's like Tom Hanks was involved with Epstein, but as far as I know, there's been no evidence produced for it, but maybe that's where that guy's head was.
Tom Hanks is one of those guys who is spotless. That's the only thing that would make me suspect him, right?
He's too clean.
He's harboring a darkness.
Because he was insanely rich and famous, and he never got Me Too'd or anything like that. Like, he had all the opportunity, and somehow,
He's gotten away, yeah.
or if he didn't do it, then he has this amazing self-control, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. We don't have any proof against him, so I guess we have to give him the benefit of the doubt, right?
Well, he's welcome to come on the program anytime, so our viewers can judge for
Could you
themselves.
imagine if we got Tom Hanks on here? If we got Tom Hanks on here, I would insist that we don't talk about any of his films or anything like that. We just hit him with hard tech questions. We just find out what Tom Hanks thinks about AI for 40 minutes.
Yo, Tom, you Android or iPhone?
He uses a Fairphone.
Yeah.
Now, this one I included because what is my ultimate... If you only learn one thing from this program, the one thing that you must learn is you do not ever talk to a cop, ever, for any reason. And you say, well, Ryan, you're being hyperbolic.
No.
Sometimes it's fine to... No, pay attention
Whenever
to
I
this.
talk to a lawyer, they're like, never talk to a cop.
She tried to return a lost credit card. Why did the Detroit police accuse her of stealing it? This made it all the way in front of a judge, and the judge said, "What are you doing?"
Absurd, ridiculous, and wrong, said the judge.
But that takes like 6 months to a year.
And she lost her job and
Yeah.
everything. So here's how it played out. She's in a convenience store. The person ahead of her leaves their credit card lying on the counter. And she's like, oh, they're still out there. She grabs it. She runs out. Ma'am, you dropped your credit card. Oh, thank you. Person took the credit card. Problem is, she got the wrong person.
Oh,
The person who accepted the card from her immediately used it fraudulently
Of course.
and bought a bunch of stuff. So then the cops went, followed up on the case. They went to the security footage. There she is. She picked it up. They arrested her. For some reason, she lied to them. She said she gave it to the guy behind the counter. Probably it's just because she was terrified and didn't know that she shouldn't talk to cops. So then she got, they came down hard on her because they were like, well, you lied to us. We got it on camera. You're clearly at fault here. And it had to go, like you say, all the way to the judge.
usually if people like left their purses or something when I worked at a store, it was usually people would bring it to the counter. And then we would find a way to get hold of them.
That seems like the way to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, the credit card, it's going to be so easy to find that person.
Yeah.
You just call the number on the back of it. Hey, it's lost. They probably just turned it off right there and sent them a new one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. She didn't think it through, but you have to think about that kind of thing,
Yeah.
especially when you're dealing with the cops.
What a
Just don't do
mess.
I did not realize this. This is something that you ran into in first year computer science.
Yeah.
A lot of people couldn't get their head around counting from 0. When you tell somebody there's 10 numbers and they're like, no, there's only 9. No, there's 10. 0 is a number.
South Korea enacts a law that will make the entire population younger in 2023. Why? Because when you're born, you're 1 year old in Asian countries.
Which makes no sense.
Well, if your culture is so old it predates the concept of 0, then maybe not.
Even in the womb, you're not 1.
Unless you're an elf.
Yeah, but you know.
Elf?
In Tolkien's mythology, elves were
Middle
pregnant
Earth.
for a year. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Not Christmas elf.
Were there any human elf women who were BFFs and they timed it so that their kids can come out perfect?
Well, there were, elf human hybrids.
That's disgusting.
Beren and Luthien, Aragorn and Arwen, Idril and Tor.
You guys aware of Bad Bunny? I thought Bad Bunny was a female.
I've heard the name, but I've never listened to their music.
Well, once again, Ticketmaster made a big mess of a very popular concert and really upset a lot of people. There were fake tickets. It was all just a disaster. And I don't think Bad Bunny's to blame here.
No. Mexican president asks Bad Bunny to play free concert to make this horrible mess go away because a lot of people are angry.
I'll see some more pictures of Bad Bunny. Oh, it's kind of the same picture.
It is. They literally just zoomed in on it. Oh, no.
This doesn't look like a more complicated pyrotechnic show than we could put on.
It's weird how the hip hop acts don't have anybody else on stage.
Not even dancers? A lot of times they'll have dancers.
Did you
I
see
guess
the
not in
band?
that one. Yeah.
They were hiding behind the trees.
He's running on a shoestring budget. He's probably banking some serious cash. He's not paying anybody.
It turns out his stage shows like the Monty Python skit where, it's like, oh, in this skit, there's somebody that is a master of disguise and they're behind the bush and they blow the bush up. And it's like, they're a master of disguise, but there's only one place to hide.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we all saw these little things in our childhood. I never had one. Did you?
Wait,
No.
scroll down to it. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Did you have one?
I didn't have one, no. My little cousins did. I used to push them around on it.
Were they pedal powered?
No, there was just a hole underneath the car. And then
Flintstone stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's not actually what this is. This is actually a little smart car that someone cleverly painted to look like that. How adorable. And this thief also thought so.
Colorado police chase Cozy Coupe on the run. Cozy Coupe's the name of the toy. It's actually a smart car, like the little electric cars, painted to look like a toy because they're super tiny. But yeah, this was a police chase.
I hate cars like this, not for any other reason other than when I'm in a parking lot and I'm like, oh, look, a free parking space. And then it's just one of those.
Sucks. That obviously was stolen.
Right.
So somebody got their little car and made it so, and then I bet they love people who are like, oh, I love your car. And then they're like, oh, yeah. And then
Yeah.
Someone immediately was like, that's mine now.
also, like, don't you want to try to steal cars that are sort of like common and circumspect?
Yeah.
Not
not-
immediately noticeable.
Not one of a kind?
Have you seen a giant toy car go through here?
Also, I love that they were off-roading it, and it's a little tiny smart car. Now, of course, when you look at the sites that have these kinds of stories, often some of them with really spicy headlines will be repeated over and over and over because people just submit them over and over. And this one was one of the most submitted that I ever seen because not only is it a great headline, but the joke is so perfect about finding it.
Snakes have a thing that is very hard to find in people, and the scientists have finally found it that I'm not going to say, but you can read because
You can get it.
you know what I'm talking about. But it's snakes. And they got a picture of a researcher who's doing an autopsy on a snake, and then it turns out a lot of snakes have these because it's a common feature of reproductive things.
I don't know how to say this without seeming like I'm like humble bragging, but I've never understood the whole idea that it's hard to find. It's quite prevalent in most cases. In the cases I've experienced, it's right there. I got to think the people who started that whole thing just weren't even trying.
Well, apparently it's hard to find in snakes.
Now, when it says there's an S on the end of that word that we can't say, it's because snakes have two.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So
And they missed them. They had double the chance.
it turns out the reason they missed him is because for whatever reason, we've only ever studied the male version of the snake genitalia.
That seems to be a common thing with human healthcare as well,
Yeah.
where we only studied the male version of this. And it's like, but
It's
this
like,
is only dosed for men. It's like, but I'm smaller than a man.
like, as I've recently learned, your gut microbiome is not really super well studied.
And, when it comes to not being able to find that particular thing, if this man has his way, it's going to get way harder. And I expect this might be the kind of guy who hasn't found one.
Utah Republican Senator Mike Lee introduces bill to outlaw all porn nationwide.
Could you imagine actually trying to enforce that?
That's the thing. They never think of a way to enforce it. Like, whatever, if you want to propose it, but you need to propose an actual concrete action.
This is pandering to his base.
Right.
I don't know who wants this.
Nobody.
Utah Republican, whatever his name was.
Well, it's the Latter-day Saints.
Yeah.
And it seems like in the UK, after all the lockdowns, people are going hard. What you got the end of the lockdown corresponding with economic collapse. And it's leading to a lot of hard drinking and all the problems that brings about.
Westminster Council fighting public urination with quote-unquote splashback paint. Yeah, the first time I visited New York, it was unseasonably warm. And I was amazed at how much like urine New York City smells.
Ugh.
I feel like you could defeat this just with a wide stance.
Or maybe just don't pee on a building. You
Or-
can
or-
still publicly urinate.
Right at the corner of the ground in the building.
Yeah, don't pee on the wall.
I wonder how much that costs. I don't think it's going to work.
No. And if anything, they'll probably just end up painting over like cool murals and stuff because they're like, we got to stop the pee problem, and then it doesn't stop it.
And much like the World Cup, the G20 group of oligarchs that rule us all, sometimes unelected, is getting together. And this year we're going to do it in India, in Mumbai. But there is a little bit of a problem in Mumbai.
Mumbai slums draped with sheets overnight ahead of the G20 event. It's a little bit of a problem, though.
Got to hide it.
They want to make sure, you can't look down like in Les Mis.
They also said that there was just these giant groups of people cleaning, but they would only clean from the road to the slums, then put the sheets up.
That's like me as a child cleaning my room.
Just put everything in the
And
closet.
you just kind of push everything off to one side. I did that once when my dad came in. He's like, this isn't gonna fly.
I don't know what NDTV is exactly, but look at their sidebar. It's just all
Clickbait.
influencers. And you guys remember this story?
Yeah.
This horrible person took some dog feces and put it on a sandwich and then pretended like he was doing a good thing to give it to a homeless man, which is a crime. And he lost his job, as you should. But as is always the case, we talked about this last week. Remember the guy who was got caught for some sort of sexual assault? You could just rehire him. You just recycle him back into the system.
So that guy from San Antonio is now working as a police officer again, but this time in Floresville. Maybe he'll be fired as a result of this headline.
I doubt it.
Who, like when you're interviewing potential hires and you're like, ooh, that's the guy. When you like Google his name, ooh, we got to get him. Get him in for an interview.
That's not the same guy. This is Floresville. That was San Diego.
But for sure, you have to do a background check, right?
Yeah.
How does that not come up?
It has to.
Maybe they were probably never charged with a crime by the DA because, of course.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is a translation issue or what, but this is maybe the fourth or fifth time I've found an interesting headline from an Indian news site. And I've read the article and I cannot make heads or tails of what's going on.
I don't
I don't know.
This is so confusing.
I didn't
So
see this one.
This is another story from India. A case against Kerala cop because apparently he had sex with a man accused of something very bad.
What I can gather, as best as I can
These are
understand,
probably AI articles.
maybe, is that this guy had gotten caught and for some child stuff. And then the cop went to pick him up and asked for a bribe because the guy said he asked for a bribe twice. And this guy was too broke. So the cop was like, well, you're going to have to pay me somehow. Yeah. Some people might say that's poetic justice, but I don't think we want those people enforcing laws.
No. Although a turd sandwich might have been okay in that guy's case.
And the IRS, they have leaked some stuff that's made some people angry.
Ken Griffin, a billionaire, has sued the IRS after his tax records were disclosed. They were not supposed to be disclosed.
I guess you got to give everybody the same protections, right? Sure, there was some embarrassing stuff in his taxes. This headline is insane. This is where Canada is going. I feel so sorry for you people because this just seems obvious, but now we're in this world of, I don't know, wokeness, and we have to question the most basic realities.
Family questions if BC driving test is fair for a mother with mild dementia.
What does mild dementia usually turn into?
Something much worse.
Raging dementia. And if you're still driving, that's an issue. So it turns out if you are diagnosed with dementia from a doctor, the doctor can demand that you take another driving test, and it's a little bit different because they're checking a lot more stuff. And these people, it's discriminatory, but
For driving, for safety, it's kind of like, well, maybe it should be a little. I mean, like, I can't technically drive if I'm not got contacts or any kind of vision correction.
It'd be like me taking my glasses off and being like,
is that
"Screw
discriminatory? Yes, but I also want to be able to see so that way I'm not hitting people when I'm driving.
And I want to be able to survive when I'm driving and other people. So dictionary.com, every website that does definitions does their word of the year. We did goblin mode, and what was the other one?
Gaslight.
We're going full goblin mode.
Dictionary went for the controversy.
This is not even controversial. It's just a stupid word to
It
pick.
is controversial.
I'm not qualified to talk about this, Krista.
Come on. This is absolutely controversial, and you know why.
Dictionary.com's word of the year is woman.
Because obviously.
Maybe you didn't follow but like that's the big, like what is a woman is the big, that's the question, right? You cannot give an answer to that question that will satisfy everybody.
That's a boring ass word. They should have picked a better slang word like goblin mode.
Oh, you heard it here first, chat. Women are boring.
It's a boring word you could have picked. I would have said the same thing if they picked man. Give me a weird slang term, like touch grass would have been a good one. I guess that's more of a phrase, yeah.
I don't see what they did goblin mode. I don't think that's right.
Yeah, I guess that is more of a phrase.
Unless you hyphenate it. Goblin, but it's not.
I'm
Goblin
trying
mode
to
is
think
just
of
two words.
what's other slang terms that came out this year.
I can't wait until we see marketing projects that have things in it like goblin mode and on fleek and blah blah blah. It's like you go to, Hallmark.com and it's like, was your year on fleek?
Goblin mode is a great opportunity to bring back the Snuggie.
Yeah.
A goblin, like put a little goblin head on it and like make it green.
Yeah.
Goblin Snuggie. That's an easy product right there.
Someone's going to steal that from us.
So, as you get older, you watch your leaders get younger. And I have to say, personally, I'm terrified by that.
That doesn't bother me.
Because I see like how bad the younger generation is at pretty much everything. And it's like, wait, we're putting them in charge? But then you look at Nancy Pelosi and the old people.
Right. Is that any better?
It's like, what is the sweet spot? I don't know. But it does bring about interesting things about how gatekeepy that world can be. But also that maybe you should make better decisions than this to get into that world.
The first Gen Z member of Congress was denied a DC apartment due to bad credit. This is funny because they talked to him and he said, oh yeah, I took time off and focused on running the campaign 100%. I ran up a bunch of credit card debt and all kinds of other stuff. But hey, I'm elected now, so it's going to be fine.
I would say that would indicate that you're not going to be good at running our economy. But then when you realize how our economy is actually run, that's exactly how you do it.
Well, that should tell you too, like, if you can't get elected as a normal person without having to rack up thousands in credit card debt.
That's what he said. Yeah, he's like,
Yeah.
I couldn't split my time between campaigning and blah, blah, blah.
And
because
working, yeah.
The only people that have time to do that are the independently wealthy who don't represent our interests. And it's like, well, I can't argue with
You
you
can't
there.
fault it, yeah.
Think about this, right? You cannot, and I certainly agree, I think everybody would, you can't do a job and run for office.
Yeah.
Which means that 1 to 2 years out of every political cycle, they're not doing their jobs.
Yeah. At least 1 to 2 years, if not more. Huh.
This one was deleted. I followed the link and I was like, that's weird. This is just loading their regular page. What's going on here? And the good old Wayback Machine teaches us that,
Bless the Wayback Machine.
somebody put it up because they were like, oh, this is good news. Let's give good news about our company that's doing good. But then they realized that the narrative is supposed to be to deny that this is coming. But, oh, it's coming.
Yensect accelerates its international development in North America.
I was wondering how you'd pronounce that. I think you're right.
Yeah, that sounds right. There was some good quotes in here, something about like luxury bugs or something.
Yeah, in case you don't, like, the thing that we didn't say is this is eating bugs because no one's going to be able to afford to eat anything else.
Or you won't be able to afford to eat meat, at least traditional meat.
Eating bugs, and you're like, well, yeah, I understand that some cultures eat bugs, but we don't. But no,
Yeah, it's
it's
coming.
coming here.
I mean, there's already people sent us many years ago or maybe not many, but like
They're over there.
yeah, the box of like flavored bugs.
I've had those before. They're just really salty.
Yeah.
How is it? Okay, I mean, you're going to get the bug patties. That's fine. But it's going to go to fast food because consumers are very price conscious of fast food. You already don't know what's in a Big Mac. They're going to figure it out.
Bugs might be an improvement on the Big Mac.
Yeah, maybe.
Based on it's like soy now, right?
Like, we got a new formula. Oh, look, it's tastier and better. Like, yeah, it was
But
bug.
how about this? Do you want to live next door to the bug farm? What if there's a breach?
I mean,
Gosh, that smell of cockroaches will haunt me until I die.
it might be farming cockroach, it might just be crickets.
No, I mean, just whatever. If there are other things that make that smell.
There's only a small number of bugs that don't carry diseases, right? Those are definitely the ones we got to eat. I don't know what's on that list.
The number 2 worst smell I've ever smelled is pig farm. But the smell of cockroaches up close, that was worse.
But like pigs and cows and stuff, they also carry disease. So I mean, that's not really like a counter argument.
But I think like there's more of a separation between like the cut of cow because the cow is big versus like the whole bug.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know too much about eating the bugs, but maybe it's time to learn because I think we're going to be eating the bugs.
Start gardening now. At least then you could have fresh vegetables to go with your bugs.
But then you're trying to stop the bugs.
I know. When you sent me that link and I was like, oh, instead of farming pumpkins, I'm going to be farming squash bugs.
Maybe. What if, Krista, you find out that your gift is not farming, but creating plants that bugs love to eat?
Yeah.
And so they hire you for insect.
That's actually a thing, apparently, with gardening. I haven't tried it yet. I'm probably going to try it next year. But, like, you have certain crops that are, like, trap crops, like nasturtium, which is a type of flower. And apparently aphids love nasturtium. So you put those in there, and then they attack that and not your vegetables.
And then you capture them, and you eat
And,
them.
yeah. Or the ants do.
Well, this was a late breaking story and then an update to the late breaking story. And my mind is blown. I don't know
A
what
fool and
this,
his money.
I don't know what this tells us about the world. People watched FTX happen and then they bought into this
And
and
did this.
they are being rewarded for it.
Donald Trump NFT collection sells out. Prices surge. According to data from OpenSea, the collection's floor price is about 0.19 ETH or $230, more than double the original mint price. Well, hey, at least it's not $30,000 if the Bored Ape people.
They don't have any pictures of them here. I probably should have put the original website in here because the cards themselves are hilarious.
They are hilarious.
You should check
There's
those
body
out.
doubles for Trump. It's just like his face pasted on other bodies.
The other thing about that occurred to me is it seems like they only took 1 or 2 pictures of him.
Yeah.
Like this was so low effort for him that he didn't even bother to go through a photo shoot.
Well, someone else pointed out too that some of like the clothing and the images are stolen from like other brands.
There was one where he was in like football jerseys and
Yeah.
stuff like that. That's wild. I mean, I guess you can't really make fun of the people for doing it because they have
Still, someone bought it.
theoretically
Yeah.
make money, but I would not be in line to get this potato.
I just don't understand this. Like, you complain and complain and complain about inflation, and then it's like, I'm going to go out and spend $230 on a Trump NFT. Who's buying it?
Well, who's buying, sports cards and Pokemon cards?
Yeah.
Is this that much difference than a Pikachu?
But it's usually children, and a pack of Pokemon cards is like 10 or 15 bucks.
What about what's his name? The Paul brothers.
Do they have cards?
He's
Oh, yeah.
famous for that one Pokemon card. He wears it around his neck. I don't know what kind of card it is, but it's very valuable as far as I understand.
And remember, next week, it's going to be light because of the holidays. No news, don't forget. Devember's happening. That'll keep you busy. We'll have other videos and then live stream the following week. So everybody have a good time off.
Yes.
But no drinking, unfortunately.
Or, well, you can drink. We just can't.
You can hang out on the forum or
The Minecraft server.
engage below with some comments. Maybe rewatch some old episodes and comments. Like, I'm rewatching this during the absence.
You should drink while playing Minecraft.
There's a lot of Minecraft to be had.
All right. We will see you guys soon.
Thank you all. See you. See you next year.
Merry Christmas and other holidays. Bye.